All right, good morning, guys. We'll get jumping in here for the pre-market prep on Wednesday, 4/20. So, happy holidays. But we'll dive in here, guys. So, obviously, Netflix got Netflix earnings last night, and they're down about $100 here. And that's a pretty big move. Such a big gap down. We have to flip to, we got to go to the weekly chart. We can't even see down that far. So at the moment, we're going to open up around, let's call it 250. 250. Sheesh. 250. I mean, basically, your entire pandemic move, and even before that, totally gets erased here. So that kind of raises a question. We got Amazon earnings coming up, Google, Apple, Tesla, all the big stuff here. Are you going to get a bit of the same reaction? But the interesting thing is, with Netflix down like freaking 80% here, you would think the QQQ might have, a little bit of pressure to the downside. But the Qs are up about 1/3% this morning, and the S&P 500 up about 1/3 as well. So Netflix bombs earnings, but so far no real impact here on the overall market. But I do want to show you guys a few things on the watch list here. And I mean, really, not too much has changed. It's going to be a lot of the same stuff. So we'll start off here with energy. I think if you get a dip back here to the 21 EMA, you can buy XLE, or you can just pursue entries in some of the energy stocks. So if you look at Chevron, I think that's a buy back here at the 21 EMA. I don't think you have to chase it up here at 28 AR, but I still think with energy, you want to try to buy the dip. So it could be XLE, it could be Chevron, it could be Oxy. We got some Oxy in the options room right now. I think all good trend, all good structure, and we got the buy signals. So we got Oxy for now, and then XLP. And granted, it's going to be a little bit tough to trade here as far as the trade that I would want to work, being that we're up here at 28 AR. But I do think any pullback in the XLP names. So there's Altria, there's Coca-Cola. We can look at Pepsi, there's Costco. I think any entry you can get on these XLP names near that daily 21, pretty good entry. But check them out, though, like Walmart. Walmart's an XLP stock. If that were to pull back at the 21, get the stacked DMAs, you got a good uptrend. I think it's worth a shot, but I'm not going to chase it up here. Then you got Altria. And buying the dip in Altria has been great. Just the issue right now, of course, not getting a dip just yet. But I think with this kind of trend, you come back to the 21. Then if you can get a 4-hour, 2-hour, 1-hour squeeze on top of the 21, just rinse and repeat those entries until the trend comes to an end. But then there's Costco. So check out Costco here. We actually took a position in the options room yesterday morning. You got the buy signals, you got the stacked DMAs. What I wanted to show you guys here on Costco is the 4-hour squeeze. Because if you go back to the daily chart, not my favorite entry in the world. I'd much rather get long around, 375 or 575. But in the context of a good uptrend with the buy signals and, mind you, it's part of a great looking sector, I do think you could, dial it down to your 4-hour or your 2-hour time frame. But what I like about the 4-hour here, you could still work an entry inside this 4-hour squeeze. The histogram hasn't even gone positive yet. So I think potentially this might give you an entry before the positive momentum, before the energy gets released. We're looking for a push here into about 610. So that might be, see, where are we going to open up this morning? 595-ish. Put it this way, I think anything inside this 4-hour squeeze makes for a pretty good entry. So we got some Costco there. That's our pick for now as far as XLP goes. And then I think you guys want to keep on focusing on here on the materials. XLB. Now XLB's got the buy signals. So it only gets better. Brand new daily squeeze. And, take your pick. Some spots in this group easier to trade than others from a swing perspective. Yeah. Newmont is definitely one of the strongest names. NEM. Um, it's a little bit extended as earnings in a few days, so not too sure I'm going to jump into that just yet. Then you've got names like Nucor. I mean, beautiful trend. So if you can get those buy signals getting printed and he pulled back into the daily 21, pretty much you just keep on buying it until it stops working. So we'll keep on waiting for a pullback here in Nucor. Then you've got names like X, U.S. Steel. This one I think you could still probably look for an entry in. We have the buy signals. We got a daily squeeze. We do have earnings on the 28th. So you have earnings next week. But what I do think you could do, if you guys look over here, let me detach that little guy. So if you look at the multi-squeeze tab, we have squeezes on the daily, the 4-hour, the 2-hour, the 60, the 30, the 15-minute. So if there's nothing but a daily squeeze, that usually makes for a pretty good, 2 to 4 week till expiration kind of trade. But when you have all these squeezes stacked on top of each other, what you could do, maybe dial down to a 4-hour chart, build your position in this 4-hour squeeze as the histogram is turning positive, and then you're taking your profits on the push. So I do think both Costco and X, they've got the trend, they got the structure, but I still think offering pretty good entries where energy, I think you buy that on a dip. Something like natural gas or CCJ, I think you buy those things on a dip. Costco and U.S. Steel, I think they offer some entries here. And that, guys, is pretty much the bulk of it. We've also got a few other positions. We got a May expiration, long position in gold. Actually, let's spend a few minutes here. I definitely think you want to keep an eye on gold. And granted, you got a good daily chart. So this could make for a pretty good short-term move. From a bigger picture perspective, though, we do have this big monthly squeeze. And if you look at the gold futures, interesting about the gold futures here, of course, you have the monthly squeeze, but if you look at the histogram is starting to turn positive this month. So I don't think this necessarily means gold is moving towards 2,200 immediately. But just in terms of, bigger picture ebbs and flows here, get that monthly squeeze back in 2018, 2019. Then we get some pretty steady support above the 21. Then the histogram turns positive. That triggers a pretty massive move. So I think the idea here of, keeping that big monthly squeeze in the back of your mind, but then using these pullbacks to the daily 21, to build your entries for a move into May, June, July, August, maybe September. To me, it makes a lot of sense here. So we have got some gold, and we might add to the position. Here's the thing with gold. For a trade in a group setting, kind of prefer something like a Raytheon. We're jumping into Raytheon, and 3 or 4 days later, we're taking our profits. Things like DBA, we held that for maybe a week. We didn't hold that very long. SLB, I think we had SLB for 2 days here. So for a group setting, those are nice trades. Where gold, it is kind of more so something, you wait for your entry, you take your position, then you just kind of set it and forget it. To sit here and kind of actively manage and watch something that can move like that every day, it can get a little bit nonsensical, but I think a good overall trend. So we've got some gold, we've got some AFLAC as well. Looking for a pop here into earnings, and that's about it, guys. We got Oxy in the options room. We've got U.S. Steel in both rooms. We've got some AFLAC, and then we got a short here on DoorDash. We'll take off for a loss if that gets back above the 21 EMA. So just keep this in mind as well, then I'll answer a few questions. And the S&Ps are looking pretty decent here. To the extent the S&Ps continue to pop higher here, It's going to take the junk with it. So, things like Uber, things like Pinterest, things like, Roku, Zoom, DoorDash, like all these beaten down stocks, they're going to pop, and they're going to pop hard to the extent the S&P pushing towards the upside here. You would look for them all to roll over again if the S&Ps roll over, but that is to be determined. Funky chart, though. It's a funky chart. We're firing a daily squeeze short as we're getting back above the daily 21. Interesting. But there you have it, guys. Keep it simple. There's beautiful trend, structure, and momentum all throughout energy. Great trend, structure, momentum in XLP, right? So Costco, Walmart, Altria. The material sector looks great. So the new cores, some U.S. steel. The list goes on and on. Now, in comparison, the semiconductors, granted, they're bouncing here. They could bounce all the way up to the daily 21. I still think they're bearish. To take it a step further, the SMH here would have to get back above the weekly 21. So basically, you start to trade back above 270 before I can look at this as bullish again. So when you're in that short-term downtrend, and I say short-term because who knows where we're going next, but when everything's a little bit, soft, so to say, you're going to get your strongest bounces. But I'd be a little bit careful with a lot of stuff, guys. So energy, XLP, XLB, and then healthcare. Healthcare's looking pretty good as well. But that's what I got for you guys. I do got to jump into the options room here in a minute. But I did want to share with you. All real quick. If you're not already, in one of the simple trading rooms, so the options room or my mastery or another mastery, some good news here, if I can find it. We've opened up our training room to the public. So let me get JC's tweet here. But yeah, 100% free. We got traders in there, open to close. So I'm going to put the link here, guys, in the chat. There's JC's tweet with the link for the free trading room. Come check it out. I'm in there Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So I'll be in there today. I believe, let me see. I'll be in there today at, I think, 10 a.m. Central. And then all the other traders on the team as well. So definitely check that out. But all right, guys, we'll do a few questions here. Good morning, Mimi. Hey, good morning, Cash. I feel you on that one. Believe me. I feel you on that one. So I tell myself this all the time because I think it's really important. We're going to see some of these trends, and it's going to feel like it's never going to pull back. Like that FOMO really starts sinking in. It's like, man, this thing's just so strong. There's buy signals everywhere. Like there's just no way I'm going to get my pullback. You probably had a lot of traders feeling the same way about Tesla a few weeks ago. It's like, oh my God, it's gone 750 to 1100. There's no pullback in the sight. If I don't get in here, I'm going to miss I'm going to miss all that move up into 1200, 1250. So it can feel like you're never going to get that pullback. But it can happen pretty quick. I was feeling that way with CCJ a few weeks ago. Like, wow, I'm never going to get the dip. Then you get your dip. So I tell myself that a lot just in terms of trying to combat against the FOMO. Might not feel like it. Somewhere down the road, usually in a 2 to 3 day span, she'll come on back down for a better entry. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Hey, good morning, Fly Guy. Does the tech rebound look strong to me? Take a look here. Where I would say this has legs to it, meaning it can continue higher and higher, is if we can finish this week above that daily 21. Because otherwise, I think you got the potential here. We flush, get a little bit oversold, reversion to the mean. If we get rejected here, we could roll right back over. So in terms of, at least in my opinion, opening up that window of opportunity for the Qs to try to get something going here, you got to close above that 21 EMA. Now, what's going to be interesting is, granted, we got through Netflix. I'm not sure, how much worse it could get in terms of the earnings result. But we got Amazon coming up pretty soon. You've got Apple, that's going to be next week. You've got Microsoft, that's going to be next week as well. So you've got that big tech earnings right around the corner too. So keep that in mind. But just in terms of structure, under that 21 EMA, could very easily roll over again if it can get through it. Kind of like back here. So here's kind of a good example. We got the flush. We got the rip. Couldn't quite clear that 21. Rolls right back over. Get a little bit oversold. Reversion to the mean. Breaks through the 21. Then it's just basically like the annihilation of the shorts. So big level there. And the S&Ps, they're trying to make that push here. So very interesting. One last note there on the Qs. Real level to focus on, just from what I think is a much more important, bigger picture perspective, is going to be that weekly 21 EMA. I think if we could get 2 weeks in a row where you're closing above that weekly 21, that's a pretty big shift of structure. Doesn't mean you rip back towards the all-time highs, but if we could get 2 weeks closing above that 21 EMA, the selling pressure might at least die down a bit. But the risk you run is we get oversold. Right? We get that huge rip. But if you can't sustain the price action above the mean, back down she comes. So focus on that 21 on the daily chart for now. Then I think you kind of take it from there. But I tied into that level. Datra, yes I do. The Compounding Growth Mastery, which you can find on the Simpler website. Yeah, so we've in the mastery right now, we've got U.S. Steel, Aflac, and then the GLD. And then the other trades there, that's in the mastery. But all right, guys, listen, I'm going to cut you loose here. But hey, join that free training room. I'd love to see you guys in there. Let me see. Yeah, I'm going to be in there today. I don't want to give you a wrong time. I'm going to be in the free training room today at, drum roll. There we go. Yeah, 10 a.m. Central. So I'd love to see y'all there. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your day. Keep an eye on energy, healthcare, XLP, and XLB. And then we'll see what's on the, what's going to go down here as far as Amazon, Apple, Microsoft earnings over the next week or so. Shall not be dull.